Hello. I wanted to take a moment to share with you in a video format the process by which we will be recording discipline this year. I know some of you are new to this process, some of you weren't around when we utilized this process for the first time, and I wanted to make sure everyone knew exactly how it operates. So the main thing you're going to need to focus on when it comes to discipline, or I should say at least the first thing you need to focus on when it comes to discipline, is recording it in one of those two classes that have been added to your gradebook. They are entitled 7th grade roster and 8th grade roster. The purpose of these rosters will be the way which we record those greens, yellows, oranges, and reds. So when a student has a discipline issue in your class, the first step in the process, as is indicated by another document that I shared with you, would be to give the student a warning. After the warning, the student would receive the second disciplinary step, which would be changing their color to a yellow, which would be indicative of a lunch detention. So let's just say in one of your classes you have given a student a warning and then they have gotten on yellow. The process by which you will record that is as follows. You would go into your gradebook, determine which grade level your student is at. Clicking on the grade level will bring up a list of all, in this case, 227 students that are currently enrolled in our 7th grade. And then over here on the right-hand side, just as if you were creating assignments or using assignments in Progress Book, each assignment would be a date of their behaviors. So in this case, let's just say it was today. We would put 9/5 of 18 behavior. Click on that. Once you've clicked on that, you'll see that same list of students who has come up across the 7th grade class. So what you want to do is, and I actually had done this as a practice a little bit before. So traditionally, this young man here, Mr. Alderman, would be on green when you open up this tab. You would want to go ahead and change his color to Y, indicating yellow. And then you want to go ahead and in the comments box, put the capital Y, colon, then the infraction, and then we're going to put a dash, your room number, so I'll just use 122 for this purpose, and then I'm going to have you put period. Let's just say it's period 2. The purpose for this is when we go through the SSMT process, it's important to determine if there's any trends in a student's behavior. Is it in a certain classroom, or is it during a certain period of time? Potentially maybe mornings, maybe afternoons. That will help us through that process. So now Mr. Alderman has been assigned a yellow. Once you've changed that mark, a student can log into their progress book, or their parents can also see it through their parent access portal for progress book. Please note that it is of utmost importance that you notify a student when changing their color to yellow, orange, or red. Please don't let it be a surprise to them in the next class when they go and they receive an orange. If we can notify them that we have changed their color immediately in some discrete manner, that will help eliminate any confusion in the process. The same thing would go as if, let's say, Mr. Alderman goes to another class and he receives an orange. Go ahead and change his color to orange. In this case, you would not want to delete what's previously entered. After the yellow infraction, you'd put OR, colon, the infraction, and dash, room number, followed by the period. And we will just indicate that with a period, PER, period. Now, when we look at his comments, if it's the teacher in the next class or one of us as administrators, we will be able to note which classrooms he's having the issue and what caused him to be on orange. So that's the side of Progress Book that we will utilize to record this data. However, as I indicated, we also need to be able to assign the lunch detention and the detentions. So at that point, and this process could be a little bit later in the day, so potentially on a planning period, after school, what have you, whatever seems to work. It could be at night when you're home and watching TV. But you want to make sure that you get sometime during that day into Progress Book their consequence. I'm sorry, not Progress Book, Public School Works. So at that point, you're going to go over to the Public School Works module. If you're having trouble accessing this or you do not know how to access it, please let me know and I'll make sure to get you access. But once you get into the Public School Works module, you'll see one green and one blue box. You're going to want to click on the Student Watch portion. The Employee Safe is where you do most of your trainings, those video trainings that you have to take. Under the Student Watch, you're going to see a variety of different choices to choose from. We're going to be spending a lot of our time in the Student Behavior Management tab, which is the one that I currently head up. The difference between what we may be used to and what the reality is, for the purpose of assigning lunch detentions and detentions as teachers, is you will not want to use the office referral button. In this case, you want to submit documentation report. Now, last year we had a little different understanding of what the documentation report is. However, this is the area that you as a teacher can actually assign a consequence. Once the consequence is served, and actually prior to that, all the same information is transferred over to Dazzle, which is our main recording source and reporting source to the state. So under Submit Documentation Report, you would click on that. Let's say the same young man that I just was dealing with over on the other tab, Mr. Alderman, had an issue today. Okay, at this point now, you would bring up this page here. If it's at the current time, you can just click Current Time. You can certainly change the time also if you'd like to AM, PM, whatever works best for you. Please try to be somewhat accurate as far as timing. It doesn't have to be to the minute, but at least throughout that period time somehow, so that, again, running reports on SSMT, we can see when a majority of the incidents are occurring for a specific student. Under offenses, a majority of you will probably use number 18, disobedient disruptive behavior. That is generally what falls under the category of disruptive classroom behavior, and most of the times that will be the one that you use. However, if there's another one that you're considering using, please check with myself or Mrs. Seymour. It's important, though, to not use anything that would be of illegal nature. So, for example, firearms, tobacco products, alcohol. Please do not use any of these in this screen. If you have an issue with any of those types of things, or bomb threats or bullying, those need to go on the Office Referral tab, which I'll talk about here in a minute. So let's just say it's disobedient disruptive behavior. We're going to say the location is just the classroom. You don't have to give specifics. In this description box, we're going to describe what the student did. Student was insubordinate. Hopefully I'm spelling it right. And talking back to Mr. Valentine. All right. And then you can go ahead and put previous interventions down, which I highly recommend pulling this menu down and putting at least what you have. If you have assigned seats in your class, that is considered an intervention. If you've moved a seat, if you've overcorrected, told the student several times, removed privileges, spoke to the whole class about an issue, verbal correction should always be considered if you're following our discipline policy. Those are the ones that you can pick interventions. That's the list you can pick interventions from. Feel free to pick as many as you use. Let me reiterate the fact, though, you do not want to select restraint or seclusion. That will red flag this discipline incident. Now, if you truly had to use it, of course we would use it. But let me remind you the definition of restraint and seclusion. Those are using our seclusion and restraint training techniques that only some of us have been trained on. So if at any time you're considering using that, please talk to Mrs. Seymour or myself. prior to selecting that as an intervention. The definition of seclusion is not having the student sit over by themselves in the corner. That would be moving of seat or removing of privilege, something along those lines. Restraint and seclusion are actually physically having to restrain and seclude a student. So anyway, after you've got your interventions, you would go ahead and scroll down. You can see the behavior history of the student is none. Here's where you want to add consequences. When you click Add Consequence, you have another drop down menu that's offered. You would click, in this case, maybe lunch detention, the number of days, and in this case, he would have it tomorrow, which is Thursday the 6th through Thursday the 6th. If you have some other consequences you've done, let's maybe say you have called a parent, you've seat changed, you could go ahead and use those. The warnings, even though all of us have given a warning, I think we can utilize the intervention strategies up above to indicate that. We don't need to double that up. However, if you feel necessary to do so, you can certainly do so. So let's just say in this case we did call parent, and I would just say when I called parent, called grandma at 7 o'clock p.m. on 9/6/18. Yes, that's right. I have done something in the future. I've already recorded it for the future. I just realized that my date is off. So at that point, you've called grandma. You will click Submit. And now Mr. Alderman has an office referral that's waiting. The difference between the office referral and the office documentation, behavior documentation, just is that it allows you as the teacher to assign a consequence. If I go back to that main screen, the office referral is a very similar screen. However, if you go to it, which some of you have because we utilized this last year, you will notice that you cannot offer any consequences. It's just a submission. So this portal or this portion you would utilize for more items that would need to be addressed by the office, or things like fighting, violence, tobacco use, things that would be something that kind of pass all of our other discipline procedures and need immediate attention by the office. The nice thing about using Public School Works is now our aides, Mrs. Sibrel, Mrs. Hansford, and Mrs. Sitko, can log in through their profile and just run a report as to who all needs to be in lunch detention for a given day, and they can take attendance through this portal. At that point, then, it will be marked as served or unserved, where you as the teacher can go and look back at the reports that you've submitted. Now, I currently would only have one report submitted. Actually, apparently I have more reports submitted, and I can look at all of those reports. But you would be able to go ahead at any time and click on a certain report, see when they are serving, and then once they have served, it will also indicate it that they have served. So once they have finished it, it will indicate that. In this case, the one that I just completed, you can see it already has a consequence assigned. I, as the teacher, or you as the teacher, have assigned the consequence, and it's expected to be served on 9/6 for 1 day. So that's how the process is going to work. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware, and certainly, as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I appreciate your patience and your attention to detail, but if we all follow this process, it'll make everything much more successful. Thank you, and have a great day.